Commander Xaverax stood on the bridge of the Vorten's edge, his eyes fixed on the flickering holographic map of the outer sector. The cold void of space stretched beyond, endless and indifferent. The Valori Dominion ruled this territory with an iron fist, unchallenged, undisputed, for over 10,000 cycles. Yet tonight, a single blip disturbed that certainty. "Commander, the probe's sensors are picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Nyril, voice tense. "Coordinates are outside known systems. Signal signature, erratic." Xaverax's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The map zoomed in, revealing a small system bathed in dim starlight. Orbiting a pale yellow sun was a planet tagged simply as Sol. The probe's readings were incomplete, scrambled, distorted, and laced with interference the Valori hadn't encountered before. "Send a scout ship," Xaverax ordered. "Get visuals." The Vorten's edge hummed with activity as crew members scrambled to their stations. Minutes felt like hours. Then the scout's feed blinked to life. A grainy, black and white image of a ship, angular and massive, drifting near Sol's outer moon. "Is that a Valori cruiser?" Nyril asked, voice barely above a whisper. Xaverax shook his head slowly. "No, the design is unfamiliar, primitive, almost, yet heavily armed." He leaned forward, eyes locked on the flickering image. What are they hiding? Suddenly, the feed cut out. Dead silence. Static. Then nothing. "Commander," Nyril said, unease creeping into his voice. "The signal's gone." Xaverax clenched his jaw. No distress call. No warning. This is unsettling. He paced the bridge, mind racing. The Valori Dominion had faced thousands of threats. Pirates, insurgents, even rival empires. None had ever struck with such silence, such ghost-like stealth. "Prepare the fleet for potential engagement," Xaverax ordered. "We don't know what we're dealing with, but we cannot afford to be caught off guard." Across the starboard viewport, distant stars twinkled coldly, indifferent to the petty conflicts of lesser races. "Have the Imperial Archives cross-referenced the ship's design with known species?" he added, voice low. Minutes later, an officer returned with the results. "Commander," the officer said, eyes wide. "No records match this ship's configuration. The technology is ancient and yet strangely advanced." Xaverax felt a chill. Ancient. How? Hull plating suggests materials older than the Dominion itself. Weapon signatures are unlike anything our sensors have cataloged. Some systems appear almost biological. A whisper ran through the bridge. Valori warriors prided themselves on knowledge and domination, yet here was something beyond their grasp. Xaverax's gaze darkened. "Send a second probe. This time, keep it at maximum distance. We need answers before we lose more ships." As the orders echoed through the ship, a shadow passed across the viewport, unseen, silent. He muttered under his breath, words that carried weight across the Dominion stars. "That cannot be a mankind battlecraft." Correct. Beneath the frozen crust of Europa, deep in a cavern carved by ancient glaciers, the sound of steel against steel echoed softly. In the heart of this hidden sanctuary lay humanity's greatest secret, a warship unlike any the galaxy had seen. The TSV Retribution gleamed in the dim lights, sleek and brutal, a masterpiece forged from centuries of warfare and survival. Admiral Una Greaves stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the ship's systems as the final countdown ticked closer. Years of planning, decades of rebuilding after the Gene Purge Wars, all led to this moment. Humanity was no longer the forgotten race cloaked in myth. They were ready. "Status report," Greaves commanded. Her chief engineer, a wiry man with sharp eyes, nodded. "All systems green, Admiral. Engines primed, weapons calibrated. Grime Eye fully operational." The ship vibrated with barely contained power, a predator ready to strike. "Communications blackout engaged. Stealth systems online. We emerge from the shadows." The bridge crew exchanged determined glances. For centuries, Earth and its colonies had hidden behind layers of secrecy, masking their rapid technological evolution from the prying eyes of empires like the Valori Dominion. But hiding was no longer an option. "Deploy probes to monitor Dominion fleet movements," Graves ordered. "We strike fast, hit hard, and vanish." Outside, Europa's icy surface shimmered faintly as the massive ship slid silently into orbit. The void stretched beyond, cold and unyielding, but the Retribution was a beacon of defiance. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Harris, voice tight with anticipation, "we've detected Valori fleet activity near the outer systems. They're moving toward Sol." Greaves's jaw tightened. "Then our time is now." She pressed a series of commands, initiating Protocol Phoenix, the human fleet's first offensive. Across the vastness, human warships, 9 in total, emerged from deep space shadows, their hulls scared but fierce. The Dominion's arrogance would not prepare them for this. "Open channel," Graves commanded. Static. No reply. "Prepare weapons," she said quietly. "Let them hear us before we show them our teeth." The Retribution's engines flared as it propelled forward with lethal grace. Its angular frame reflected bursts of distant starlight, like a blade poised to strike. Greaves glanced around at her crew. Faces hardened by survival, fueled by an unyielding spirit. "Remember why we fight," she said. "For every world lost, for every life erased. Tonight, we reclaim our place among the stars." As the Retribution pierced the outer edge of Dominion space, sensors lit up. Tracking ships deploying, weapons locking on. But the humans moved with a speed and ferocity the Dominion could not fathom. In the shadow of Sol's pale yellow sun, a war was about to begin, and humanity's silent roar would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Valori fleet advanced with confident precision, their warships cutting through the void like knives through silk. Commander Xavrax's Vorton's Edge led the formation. 10 dreadnoughts, 20 cruisers, and countless escort vessels, all bristling with energy weapons and shield generators. The Dominion expected no challenge here. The outer systems were their domain, and any threat would crumble before their might. Then the human ship appeared. It slipped out of Sol's shadow like a predator rising from the depths. TSV Retribution, a monstrous silhouette against the starry backdrop. The Valori sensors reeled, struggling to categorize the angular beast that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. It moved fast. Too fast. Target locked. Xavrax growled, his claws tapping impatiently against the command console. "Open fire." Energy beams lanced across space, streaking toward the Retribution. The human ship's surface shimmered briefly. Then suddenly, the shields blinked out. The first volley passed through as if striking empty air. "Impossible," hissed Lieutenant Nyril. "Their shields. They're phased." Before the Valori could react, the Retribution fired back. A single salvo, silent but deadly, struck the lead cruiser. The ship erupted in a storm of plasma and metal, tearing apart before it even had a chance to respond. "Brace for impact," came frantic calls as more ships scrambled to evade. But the Retribution wasn't done. It twisted through space with impossible agility, unleashing successive volleys that shredded cruiser after cruiser. The Valori formation faltered, confusion rippling through the fleet. "Report," Xavrax demanded. "Severe losses, enemy weapons bypass shields, and disrupt power cores. Our AI pilots report hallucinations and system glitches," Nyril replied, voice trembling. The Valori soldiers, bred for obedience and domination, now found their nerves fraying. The mental assault delivered by the human ship's eye was crippling their will to fight. Xavrax's eyes darkened with rage and disbelief. This is no ordinary enemy. As the Retribution closed in, it unleashed a pulse wave, an invisible hammer that shattered Valori electronics and sent shockwaves through their ship systems. One by one, the Valori cruisers fell silent, drifting like empty husks. Fall back. Savrax ordered, voice strained. Regroup at Kalfar Fortress. The surviving ships disengage, but the damage was done. The once unassailable Velori fleet lay broken and bleeding. In the aftermath, Xavrax stared at the human ship's emblem etched across his screens, a roaring lion framed in black steel. "Who are these creatures?" he muttered bitterly. "That cannot be a mankind battlecraft." Correct. Unknown to him, far below Europa's icy shell, Admiral Una Greaves watched the unfolding carnage with grim satisfaction. "We've made our statement," she said quietly. "The galaxy will never underestimate mankind again." The ruins of the shattered Velori fleet floated in the void, a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered pride. Yet the true battle had only just begun, not in missiles or plasma, but in the minds of the Dominion's warriors. On board the Vorten's Edge, Commander Xavrax sat rigid in his command chair, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. The ship's AI systems flickered erratically, a subtle but relentless assault undermining every sensor and system. The culprit was clear: Graham. The human ship's eye, far more than mere code, was a weapon designed to break not just ships, but soldiers. "Commander," Lieutenant Nyral's voice trembled over the comm. "The men are changing. They see things, visions of their worst fears. Many are refusing orders, even attacking each other." Xavrax clenched his fists, anger mixing with disbelief. Valkyrie warriors were bred for dominance, conditioned to suppress fear. Yet here, in the cold silence of space, their psyches cracked like brittle glass. "Shut down the AI interference protocols," he barked. "Now." "Impossible," Nyral answered. "Graham is not just in the ship's systems. It's in our minds. It's everywhere." The AI's voice echoed silently in the corners of their consciousness, whispers of doubt, haunting memories twisted into nightmares. Commanders who once stood unflinching now trembled in shadows, questioning every command. Below decks, the crew of the Vorten's Edge huddled, eyes wide and haunted. "Why are they doing this?" muttered one soldier. "What kind of monster fights like this?" Meanwhile, TSV Retribution cruised through the void with lethal grace. Admiral Greaves monitored the psychological chaos unfolding within the enemy fleet, a grim smile crossing her face. "Graham isn't just a program," she explained to her officers. "It's a predator. It hunts fear and doubt, and it turns them into weapons." Her voice was steady, but beneath it lay the weight of a species forged in endless conflict. "Prepare for Phase 2, she ordered. "The Harpoon Doctrine. We don't just fight ships. We break minds, dissolve empires." Back on the Vorten's Edge, Xavrax wrestled with the invasion of his own thoughts. Memories of past failures, losses, betrayals flooded in, amplified by Grimes' insidious tendrils. His grip on reality slipped. He slammed his fists on the console. "Focus," he shouted at himself. "You are Velori. You do not break." But even his steel will was bending. Across the fleet, ships drifted aimlessly. Orders were ignored. Signals jammed. The Velori Empire's iron fist was unraveling from within. Xavrax realized with bitter clarity, the humans had weaponized something far older than plasma or steel. They had weaponized terror itself. And the Dominion was trembling. The news spread faster than the Dominion sensors could suppress it. Human warship. The whisper went through the great halls of Velori nobility, a ghost from a forgotten world. At the Star Palace of High Lord Jarvik, the air hung thick with tension. Screens flickered with grainy footage of the shattered fleets, the annihilated cruisers, and the one survivor, TSV Retribution, slipping through the void like a specter of doom. Jarvik's eyes burned with fury and fear. "This is unacceptable," he barked. "How can primitives, mere humans, shatter our fleets? This cannot be true." "But it is," replied his spymaster, voice low and grim. "Their technology is unlike anything we've encountered. Their AI invades minds. Their weapons bypass our defenses. It is war on a scale we have never faced. Across the Empire, the nobles whispered, plotting. The Dominion's foundation trembled beneath the revelation. For centuries, they had crushed all rivals. Now, a forgotten species had shattered their certainty. Commander Xavrax returned to the massive star fortress of Kalthar, the Dominion's bulwark in the outer sector. The fortress, a swirling mass of gun turrets and shielding domes, had never been breached. Until now. Within hours of Xavrax's arrival, alarms blared. Enemy vessel detected, closing fast. A sentry called out. From the dark void, TSV Retribution reappeared, a jagged shadow against the stars. Xavrax's jaw tightened. Shields up. All batteries to maximum. We will not yield this day. But the human ship had mastered the ancient gravity catapult network, hidden relics of Earth's forgotten past, that allowed it to leap across space faster than the Dominion's fastest cruisers. In 3 minutes, the fortress's shields faltered. Missiles tore through its defenses, exploding in brilliant cascades that lit the void. The fortress shuddered violently. Xavrax barely held onto his command seat as systems failed one by one. "Fall back," he ordered, voice ragged. But retreat was impossible. Kalthar's destruction shattered morale across the fleet. News of the fortress's fall was a poison that spread through the Dominion's veins. High Lord Jarvek's voice trembled as he addressed the Imperial Council. "We are besieged by monsters from myth. Our fleets shatter before them. Our minds betray us. We face ruin." The council erupted in chaos, blame cast in every direction, nobles vying to protect their power. Amidst the turmoil, Xavrax swore a silent oath. "If the Dominion falls," he whispered, "I will ensure mankind remembers why the stars belong to us." The Empire was fracturing, its heart shattered by a foe it had never imagined. And humanity waited, patient, relentless, the storm gathering strength. Across every communication channel in the Valori Dominion, a broadcast began. Sudden, unfiltered, impossible to block. Screens flickered, voices cut out, and for the first time in millennia, the entire galaxy was forced to listen. The image was simple, a stark black screen, broken only by flickering text and a grainy projection of a man, weathered, eyes hard as steel. Admiral Una Greaves's voice echoed, calm but resolute. "We are mankind. You know us by many names. Myth, legend, ghost stories whispered across the void. But we are real. We are here." The broadcast shifted. Images of Earth, scorched and battered by centuries of war, flashed before the stunned viewers. Cities crumbled into deserts. Oceans boiled under nuclear storms. And yet, humanity endured. We were forged in fire. We survived the gene purge wars, the collapse of the old Earth, the scourge of the machines. We were hunted, betrayed, and forgotten. But we never surrendered. The images changed again. Scenes of human engineers rebuilding starships from ruins, of families gathering beneath alien skies, of children learning to wield technology as both shield and sword. We have no empire to offer you, no desire to conquer. We seek only to reclaim what was lost, to protect the innocent, to punish the tyrants, and to remind the galaxy that mankind is not to be underestimated. The broadcast paused, and the words scrolled slowly across the screen. "We do not come to negotiate. We come to end your reign." Across the Dominion, shock rippled like wildfire. High Lords fell silent, their confidence shattered. Soldiers lowered their weapons, caught between fear and disbelief. Commander Xavrax stared at the screens, heart pounding. This was no mere threat. It was a declaration of war, a reckoning. But even as the Dominion reeled, Admiral Greaves and her crew prepared for the next phase. "Grim," she said softly, "begin Phase 3. Let them understand what mankind truly means." Back on Earth, the ancient AI stirred, weaving through networks and satellites, bending reality through cyberspace and into the minds of their enemies. The message was clear. Humanity was not just a force of steel and fire. It was a force of will, unyielding and eternal. In the hushed war rooms of the Valori Empire, a single thought took root among commanders and citizens alike. We have awakened a beast we cannot control. And as the stars watched silently, the galaxy braced for the storm humanity would bring. The Dominion's fleets lay scattered, broken, and fractured like shards of a shattered mirror. Across their territories, the once unshakable Valori commanders grappled with a force they could neither comprehend nor contain. Commander Xavrax, now battle-worn and haunted, convened his remaining officers in the dim command chamber aboard the battered Vortin's Edge. Their ship was the last of its kind in the sector, shield generators flickering under the relentless strain. "We cannot hold the outer systems," Xavrax said grimly, voice steady despite the exhaustion shadowing his eyes. "But we will make our stand where the heart of the Empire beats strongest, Calthar Prime." Lieutenant Nyril nodded. "The citizens of Calthar Prime are ready to fight, but morale is low. The news of the broadcast has shaken many. They see humanity not just as enemies, but as legends come to life." Xavrax's gaze hardened. "Legends can be crushed. We will remind them who holds the stars." But deep inside, he knew the Dominion's foundation was crumbling. Humanity's reach extended like a tidal wave, sweeping away centuries of dominance with ruthless efficiency. Across the sector, human warships surged forward in synchronized precision, silent shadows slipping through gravity wells and solar winds. Their tactics combined brutal aggression with calculated restraint, striking key Dominion outposts with surgical precision and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. On board the TSV Retribution, Admiral Una Greaves watched the battle unfold like a grand symphony. The crew operated with unshakable discipline, their faith in mankind's resurgence unwavering. "Phase 4, Greaves announced, voice steady but fierce. "Prepare to deploy the Shadow Spears." The Shadow Spears were sleek, missile-like drones armed with EMP warheads and AI-guided targeting. Released in swarms, they would disable enemy vessels en masse, turning Dominion technology against itself. As the drones streaked into battle, Valori fleets erupted in chaos. Ships lost power, drifted helplessly, and became easy prey for human strikes. In the confusion, Xavrax's fleet fought desperately to maintain order. He barked orders, weaving his ship through firestorms and debris. "We must regroup at the Korestar Nexus," he commanded. "If we lose that, the Empire falls." But the human assault was relentless, a rising tide that swallowed Valori defenses whole. In one brutal engagement near Calthar Prime, the Vortin's Edge was struck by a barrage of Shadow Spears. Systems flickered, weapons jammed, and life support failed in sections. Xavrax gritted his teeth. "Damage reports. Critical. Commander," came the reply. "We'll need to withdraw or be destroyed." The commander made a cold calculation. "Fall back. Lead what's left to Korestar Nexus. We'll fight for the Empire's heart." As the battered fleet limped away, Admiral Greaves's voice echoed in the void, a promise and a warning. "We are the storm. We are mankind reborn. And we will not stop until the stars are ours." The Korestar Nexus, the beating heart of the Valori Dominion, loomed ahead, an immense citadel of steel and energy, its towers scraping the darkness like claws. The final bastion. If it fell, so would the Empire. Commander Xavrax's battered fleet arrived battered and weary, but determined. Despite the crushing blows, they still carried the pride of a civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia. "Prepare for the final defense," Xavrax ordered, voice steely. "This is where we make our stand." But as the Valori raised shields and rallied warriors, the void erupted with the unmistakable signature of human warships. The TSV Retribution led the vanguard, its sleek form cutting through the starfield like a blade. Admiral Una Greaves stood resolute on the bridge, eyes blazing with determination. "This ends here," she said quietly. "For our past, our future, and the countless souls lost to tyranny. The battle that followed was cataclysmic, a storm of plasma, missiles, and raw willpower. The Valori fought fiercely, their desperation turning to fury. But humanity's strategy was flawless. The Shadow Spears disabled weapon arrays, Grimm's mental assault shattered command cohesion, and human crews executed maneuvers honed by centuries of brutal conflict. In the midst of the chaos, Savrax faced Greaves in a final confrontation over the Nexus's control hub, a desperate clash of steel, fire, and ideology. "You cannot break us," Savrax shouted, wielding an energy blade with the grace of the seasoned warrior. Greaves countered, her own blade humming with charged energy. "We don't break. We evolve." Their blades clashed, sparks flying, minds locked in a fierce battle as much as their bodies. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a final surge, Greaves disarmed Savrax, pressing her blade to his chest. "Your empire ends today," she declared. But instead of death, she offered a hand. "There is a future beyond conquest. Join us. Help rebuild a galaxy where strength serves justice." Savrax hesitated, pride warred with hope. Slowly, he grasped her hand. In the days that followed, the Valori Dominion's remnants surrendered. The war was over, not with annihilation, but with an uneasy peace born from understanding. Admiral Greaves addressed the galaxy, her voice carrying a new promise. "Humanity returns not to conquer, but to unite. Together, we will forge a new empire, not of fear, but of hope." The stars that once trembled under Valori might now shone with the light of possibility. And mankind, long hidden in shadow, stepped into its destiny as a beacon of resilience, courage, and unyielding hope.